Hi there and welcome to the post-match reaction from Ibrox, where Rangers have drawn 3-3 with Celtic in a 96-minute equalizer that was unbelievable from Rabbi Matondo. Ross, we'll just start with you. What's your overall thoughts on that game?
I like that you came to me first.
You're holding the mic.
Yeah, that's true. I think initially when the game finished I was a bit deflated, I'll be honest. I think it will obviously go through the game, but I think it came down to that third Celtic goal. I think it deflated me. I think we had a chance at that point to go on and win the game. But the way that Rangers have been able to grab a result today was unbelievable, really. I mean, what a finish that is from Rabbi Matondo. So I think as the dust settles, I will look back positively on this result. I think from where we were in the first half. It's one of those ones where you tick it off now, you move in. Rangers have, I think is it 6 games left, obviously 5 in the split, so you know the title is still in our hands at this point, and that's definitely the way you would look at this in terms of after that first half, because it was really, really poor, and I'm sure we're going to get into it.
Yeah, Tommy, exact same question to yourself. What is your overall thoughts on that game?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack, Kyle, and you know Ross has touched on it as well. Breathless match. We'll get into the first 45 and the harrowing start, and then we probably saw the best and the worst of this Rangers side, which is the worst is freezing in some of the big moments and not taking our chances, and such a big build up to today. But then the mentality to come out in the second half post a pretty direct conversation with Philippe Clement, I imagine some of the players had, and then be able to get ourselves right back into it. Listen, big moments inside the game that we'll definitely need to speak about, but ultimately I don't think there's many Rangers fans out there that have been looking at that at half time and going, yeah, I sense a 3-3 coming on.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. Tommy, I'll stick to you, seeing as you're holding that mic. You talked about
refusing to let it go now.
That's
it.
100%. That's it. Just like Rangers refusing to let it go.
That's it. Never give up.
I've just written down here Tav versus Maeda. That was the worst 20-30 seconds I have ever seen in terms of a start to an Old Firm game.
I think that's probably a very polite way to put it, and it's a howler. There's no two ways about that, right? And James Tavernier goes on in the second half to take the penalty and all that. We can touch on that, but there's no getting by the fact it's a blunder. I know Tav was pointing to people afterwards and saying, "Why weren't you giving me a shout, closing up?" He's got more than enough space. He seems to continually switch off when he comes against Maeda. That Maeda's slightly faster and runs himself into the ground, and his mind goes blank. I think he thinks it's running through, and it's going to bounce right through to Butland on the angle or whatever, or it's going to go straight out. It doesn't. It sticks. Maeda covers the ground. He gets in, and then it's a decent enough finish, I suppose. But yeah, a howler of a start, and it knocked him, and it knocked the team, and it knocked the stadium absolutely flat for quite a period of time.
Yeah, it really, really did. You could feel it in the stadium. Ross, I'll come to you with the next question here. We talked about it when we got onto it a bit later on, but the next sort of 20-25 minutes, Rangers really struggled with the Celtic press, I felt. But the penalty decision that Celtic were awarded, I can't have too many complaints about it. The only thing is what is Connor Goldson doing with his arms out like that in the box when a cross is coming in?
Yeah, I wish I could come on this podcast and say it wasn't a penalty and we've been done by VAR and things like that, but it's a penalty. It's a penalty. I think Connor Goldson has enough time to adjust when the ball's coming in, and his elbow is out. And look, I have sympathy for defenders in that situation. I think Philippe Clement touched on it in the press conference. It takes a bit of a deflection. You're maybe trying to move your body to deal with the deflection itself, but his arm's out. It's a penalty. I think we would all be screaming for it in the stands if it was the other way. So we can't really hold too many grudges for that one. I do agree with you though. I think that was the real difference between the sides in the first, especially 30 minutes. Celtic came today, and they were from the off. They were going to press us, and we have seen it at Ibrox before. But they've had periods in the game, I think, where they've let Rangers settle on the ball, and we've been able to play through it. They didn't give us any chance to breathe today, and I thought our back four in particular, and probably Lundstram in front, really struggled to deal with it, and just couldn't get any momentum in the game at all. Like, just couldn't. I think sometimes you look at these type of games and you just want, you're not necessarily looking for an instant return in terms of a goal, but you just want your team to settle. Put a few passes together, try and settle things down, and there was none of that at all. So yeah, I think I don't like saying it, but I think you have to give credit to Celtic, and especially in the first 30 minutes, the way they approached the game. They put us under pressure. We didn't deal with it, and by the way, we were rightly 2-0 down. And I think going into half time, I think we were lucky to be even 2-0 down.
Yeah.
I think Celtic could have stretched that lead, and they really could have taken the game from us in the first half. So I think, we're, like I said, we're fortunate to go in at 2-0 at half time.
Credit to Celtic. That's Ross, banned from the next podcast. Tommy, I'll come on to you here. Ross touched on it there.
In between credit and Celtic for their start. Yeah, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. To be fair, I actually agree with you. Sorry, Kev.
No, it's fair enough. And again, do you know what? I think I slightly agree with you in terms of that as well, shockingly enough. But
no, sorry, the only thing you say to that though is it's hard to put yourself back together immediately after such a howler of a start.
Yeah.
And I think it was always going to take a little bit of time for Rangers to get into it. That's a separate point to Ross's point, which is well made, of Celtic came in, they went front foot.
Yeah. And look, Ross touched on it. Celtic could have had a third or fourth from that end towards the end of that second half, but Jack Butland made 2 tremendous saves
Save
for
from
me.
the headers, absolutely cracking. Absolutely cracking.
Yeah. What was your thoughts on Jack Butland's overall performance today, and those 2 saves in particular? He keeps us in the first half, doesn't he?
Keeps us in the game, because if you go into at half time anything more than 2-0, it's difficult to see a pathway back, in all honesty. But yeah, that's what you're looking for from your goalkeeper. I think some of the distribution decisions were maybe a little bit questionable actually today. The feet, I think some of the passes he was getting from the back floor definitely did not help him.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing with that, Maeda, pressing really, really high as well, and Kuhn and stuff like that as well. They've got a bit of pace, and we continually try and use him as a focal point with into the corners of the box and stuff like that. But that's a different point. You're looking for your goalkeeper, and Philippe Clement touched on this before the game. The difference has been some big players picking up big moments. Now, we tend to always, everybody thinks of, right, that means a striker, a midfielder getting into the box, taking a chance. Sometimes it rests on your goalkeeper keeping you in the game when you're in a terrible moment. We were in a terrible moment for 45 minutes. Could have had one at the end, mind, right, the first half. But yeah, you turn around, you go, Jack Butland, he's there. He's done exactly what he's he's there to do, making some big saves. So yeah, kept us in it. Yeah,
it was Alan McGregor-esque, wasn't it? Some of those saves in terms of how pivotal or how important they were in the time of the game. I'll stick.
You mean Andy Gorham-esque, by the way? For the older folks out there like me,
listen,
you mean Andy Gorham?
Not
today. Yeah, we're not today. Fair shout.
Look, Tommy, I'll stick with you there as well
because I've got the mic.
Exactly, 100%. But why do you think that first half was so bad? I would even go to say that was up there with Beale bad. Was it the personnel that was starting? Was it we just didn't have the right mentality? I don't know. It felt to me that Tav didn't realise that a game had actually started. I don't know what was going on. Yeah.
That's why I stuck with this mic down. Well, listen, it's a broad-ranging question. I'll try and give you a fairly short answer, which is, I think some of the changes or the team that Philippe Clement had picked, some of that's enforced on him. He's taking gambles on guys like Scott Wright and the Scott Wright Tav axis up the right, so to speak. That didn't naturally work. Scott Wright, empty jersey, it has to be said. Scott wrong. And then you've got James Tavernier, who just has a blunder moment, and then that throws him out. He's also slow at the uptake from, I think it was a throw in, and he allows Maeda to catch him at the edge of the box, and that leads eventually to the penalty as well. The midfield didn't get particularly tight enough. I thought John Lundstrom was pretty poor, although he tried his best. It just didn't come together, and we were allowing Celtic to chop us up. The space they were getting in the middle of the park, they were getting time to turn on it and then drive forward. We weren't closing out, so there's that. And then we just weren't in it the first 45, and it looked like our heads had kind of went somewhere else. To your point, it looked as though we hadn't switched on to the intensity that we expected as fans that we were going to bring today. It was actually Celtic that were doing all that running and all that challenging.
I think the rhetoric coming out from the other half of Glasgow was, we'll sit back, we're happy, it's in our hands, you've still to come to our place after this. And I think we bought into that a wee bit in terms of we were not expecting that start.
To be fair, listen, that might be a fair point, but again, and it's not a get out of jail free card or anything like that, but that might very well have been the game plan, right? But you pin back the guys like Tav and all that by playing Maeda because of the pace, conundrum. But nobody's legislating for 20 odd seconds in, and James Tavernier switches off, and all of a sudden you're 1-0 down. That blows up both tactics boards.
Yeah.
Then it's about, right, who can grind their way back into the game and find their feet for us, and then it's for them. They were desperate to get a second and get a third. Actually, as we move into the second half, there are some positive stories around about the Rangers' performance as well.
Yeah, let's go and start being a bit positive, because I know that, I don't know, it was weird. I didn't know how to feel initially after that game, but now we're talking about it. Now we've got, some goals and stuff to talk about, and the fact we're still very much in a title race here. Ross, the sort of first action point of that second half was Fabio Silva. You can talk about Fabio Silva's performance today, but he did win us the penalty. I think shockingly, God, that's terrible. Beaten, they're all as bad as each other, but beaten, going over instantly saying it was a dive. I know he'd sort of talked to Silva earlier on in the game about simulation, couldn't get that card out quick enough, but for the opposition manager to come out and say that was simulation, it's a joke. I mean, you could clearly see it was a penalty. He was caught, wasn't he?
Yeah, I've actually just recently watched it back, the last 5 minutes. I hadn't seen it back, but Johnson just kicks his knee after the balls went by. And we've just heard from the manager there, Philip, come on, he said exactly the same thing. Are we at the point where kicking someone in the knee now isn't considered a foul? So, look, it's always the same. It's always the same after these type of games. Rangers can't have got a result out of this game without the referee or something being fortunate in some way or another. So, at this stage, I'm not surprised by the reaction. But yeah, it was definitely a penalty. Fabio Silva overall, I thought he was really poor first half. Really poor. And I think there's that debate at the moment, where's his best role? Is it on the left? Is it up front?
On the bench.
Well, that's fair after the day. I'm just still not convinced he's suited to that left-hand side role. I don't think he's comfortable with his back to goal in wide areas. I think he's better in central areas. Mm-hmm. He just wasn't able to get in the game at all today. But look, yeah, he does come out in the second half and he wins us that penalty. And look, maybe you're going to ask me this question. I'm just going to go into it straight away. Tavernier. I mean, the at that stage of the game, right, you're 2-0 down. He's had a shocking first half, as a lot of them did. Mm-hmm. Yep. That one, I'm glad I didn't have to talk about the whole Maeda goal, because I probably would have went in on him there. But to step up in those circumstances and put it away, that takes a lot. And Rabbi Matondo actually discussed that in his press conference there, saying how important that was for the team, and giving a lot of credit to Tavernier for doing that. So again, I know he had that poor first half and it can't be forgotten about, but he steps up in moments when you need him. He's done it again today, and he's got us back in that game. So well done to the captain again, and well done for Fabio Silva for winning that penalty. Yeah, fair play. Another penalty that I've watched through my fingers on the gantry, and just was glad to hear the supporters roaring when that went in. Obviously, Rangers go up fairly quickly after that, score another goal, but it's ruled for a foul in the middle of the pitch by Tom Lawrence. I'll need to see that one back before making a comment on it. My initial thoughts on it are it's quite harsh, but Tommy, I'll come to the next sort of talking point here with you, and it's the goal to make it 2-2 from Abdallah Sima. Rabbi Matondo's on the pitch at this point. It's a really good ball winning moment by Sterling so far up the pitch, something that we didn't do enough of in this game. He finds Matondo gets his shot off, it sort of bounces back, and to me this is, I know it took a deflection, but it's a brilliant goal from Rangers to make it 2-2. It is. Before that, I don't want to walk past either, definitely not giving James Tavernier a pass for the first half performance, but also big players, big moments, the amount of pressure on his shoulders, with the fans expectant of what would happen in the first half, to then step up and not just sclaff it or hit it shockingly hard and hope for the best, wrap it right into the top corner. That does take a bit of mentality to come and do that, to be honest with you. So fair play to the captain there too. And that infuses belief through the rest of the team as well, because you see your captain's head go down in the first half, and then you see him stepping up and you go, right, I actually do believe some of that. And that's some of the stuff that Philippe Clement works on with the players as well, which is why I reference it. But yeah, listen, it was a really good finish, actually, and you'd pointed this out to me as we were watching it downstairs in the media room. The ball takes such an awkward bounce, just as he's setting himself, and then he resets himself really quickly, and then smashes it home. And at that point in time, again, the bench was up, the players were up, the stadium was up, the fans were up. Everything was just, this is momentum one way. This can only. I mean, I was sitting in my natural seat today, not in the gantry, and I'd said at half time, I kid you not, the guys will back me up here in terms of it. I said, we're going to come back into this in the second half, right? I don't know what they were putting in my tea at half time. But that was not my feeling, I'll tell you that. We got there and we thought, right, this is it, now bed down, go and get the winner. And that's maybe a nice segue into the next point you're going to raise. Yes, this, Ross, just absolutely deflated us on this gantry, didn't it? We go 2-2, worked so hard. I thought Rangers had actually played pretty well in that sort of 10-15 minutes leading up to the equaliser that we got, and then it was just an awful goal to concede. What was your thoughts on that? Yeah, well, Rangers changed their approach slightly. They made a couple of substitutions, and they were pressing a lot higher up the park. They weren't letting Celtic play out from the back anymore, which actually I think really helped Rangers get back into the game.
Yeah.
But a weird change, I thought, from Celtic at that point. Kind of gave us that momentum to get back into the game. They sat a little bit deeper. They brought Adamida on and started to go long.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bit of a strange one that let us back into the game. But yeah, the third goal, I mean, you seen me on that gantry. I was absolutely devastated. I think it's the same with any goal. There's always kind of points of failure throughout. And once the ball goes to Adamida, I think he does well to shift on to his right, but I think we could probably get a block in. He's maybe fortunate it goes through the legs. Yeah. Actually, as well, this might be slightly harsh, but I think Jack Button should maybe do a little bit better.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to be able to get down quick enough. That might be a little bit harsh, and I'll watch that back. I actually thought the initial part of that goal was the worst part for me, because Paulo Bernardo picks it up on the left-hand side, and Kieran Dowell just completely switches off.
Yeah.
And he realises too late that he has to put pressure on the ball. But instead of actually bursting a gut to get back and put pressure on the ball, he kind of just jogs back and leaves it. And I just thought at that point, that was the thing that really disappointed me, because we always hear the old cliche in football, you're always the most vulnerable when you score. But I just thought that, for Rangers, that was a gift.
Yeah.
That was a real gift to let Celtic get back in front at that point. And we should touch upon this. That Celtic bench thought that was the clincher.
100%.
They thought that was a huge goal for this title, the way they celebrated. They're all in together. They're all cuddling each other on that bench. That this is the big goal that we needed. So the fact that they've not ended up walking away today with the result, of course, makes it sweet.
Yeah.
But I just thought, I think they felt they'd been let off the hook at that point, and that's the way they celebrated.
The fact Callum McGregor was pointing at the scoreline to Todd Cantwell and clearly going 3-2, game's done, I think tells you everything you need to know about it. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant point that you've made there. But Tommy, you get to talk about the fun part here, and where the roof
about time.
Yeah, literally came off Ibrox at this. Again, I thought we conceded that goal. I actually thought our response to going that goal behind was good. We still kept attacking. The crowd were still largely with the team, which in previous seasons we've seen it, that being non-existent after conceding a goal in, was it 92 minutes or whatever it was whenever we conceded. But
we conceded their third was the 88th minute.
Who cares?
Listen, welcome. This is Ibrox.
Talk about Rabbi Matondo's goal.
You come here for good factual output and content with a good balance. This is why you come to This Is Ibrox. 88th minute is when they scored. Now let's talk about when we scored.
On the 96th minute.
93rd.
93rd. Right, so...
What's on your notes, by the way?
Wrong page. So talk us through Rabbi Matondo's goal and just what that meant at that moment in time.
Yeah, well, again, I want to jump back just for a quick second and say they absolutely thought they'd won it. Yeah. They were up, they were pointing and they were shouting, and Brendan Rodgers with his team and his assistants were all cuddling together, and they thought it was gone. I don't think anybody could believe that we'd let them straight back into it. I don't think they could believe we'd let them straight back into it, because the momentum had swung so far in our favour. As you say, I think it goes out onto the right hand side. I think Todd Cantwell plays it into Lundstrom. Todd Cantwell holds it up really well inside the box, and he is really good at that. He's deceptively good at it, deceptively strong. Todd Cantwell plays it out, I think it's to Lundstrom, passes it into Matondo. He's got nothing on, right? Either checks, plays another wee safe ball inside, or he tries to whip into the box. He doesn't. He comes, he steps out, he does his Kevin De Bruyne, as Philippe Clement was referencing in the press conference, and he takes his chance and he believes in his ability, which is, I'm going to look up and I'm going to wrap my foot around this and I'm going to ping it right into the top corner and leave Joe Hart absolutely despairing. And the Celtic bench's heads absolutely dropped as they stand. Well, I think they dropped. I saw something in the replay because I ended up a good few seats away from where I was sitting at the time the goal went in. But the stadium erupts, and that mentality part is what Philippe Clement, technique aside from Matondo, right, which he's got that in his locker. I've said that since he signed for us. Always been a fan of him, not walking past that, right? But Philippe Clement's been really, really clear about not giving up. I'm trying to quote him here, but he said, from the first moment I walked into the stadium, into the club, I said, we never give up. We keep going. And we saw that today. He's absolutely right when he said there is Rangers teams who would not have come back from the 2-0 and who definitely would have not have come back from an 88th minute 3-2er. And we thoroughly deserved for the second half performance. We took the game to them. We showed we could take our chances. We showed we can cut them open. We showed we've got talent in the squad. It's now about taking that into the next 6 games.
Yeah, and Ross, you can talk to me about that Rabbi Matondo goal as well, and the impact psychologically that goal will have, because let's face it, that's a Celtic team that are not used to that happening to them.
Well, if you have to pick a way to win a game, it would be that type of goal, wouldn't it? I mean, Tommy's touched on it well there, but he didn't really have anything on, and it's interesting enough, Philippe Clement and Rabbi Matondo spoke about it in the press conference about something he's been working on. That takes a hell of a lot of technique, by the way. Like, anyone that's ever kicked a ball will realise that is so difficult to do. And if you actually watch the replay back, he's put kind of top spin on the ball, so it's the knuckle ball, as you would probably say, in terms of it's up and it's dipping and it beats Joe Hart and he's got absolutely no chance. So yeah, I love seeing that one. My celebration in the gantry at that point was probably a little bit relieved that we've managed to pull this back. I thought the way the team performed in the second half, I don't think they were great. I'm not going to stand here and say that Rangers were completely turned around in the second half. They were completely rejuvenated. But I think after the goal, the penalty, they started to win their individual battles a little bit more. They started to pick up second balls, which is something that Celtic had over us the majority of the game before that. And that just gave them the slight edge to build back into the game. Yeah. And I think that's where the manager comes in at this point. I think we could probably feel that he went through that team at half-time.
Yeah.
I think Rabbi Matondo touched on saying that the manager let them know that was not a team he recognised. That's not the team he expected to see in the first half of this game. Look, you can go down in a game of football. You can lose goals in a game of football. You can perform in a way that you're not expecting. But the way that Rangers performed in that first half was shocking. Like, embarrassingly bad.
Sorry, just to add to that, just one wee point. Interesting, just to back that up, though, that he only makes one change at half-time.
Yeah.
He sticks to them, he says, go out and prove everybody in the stands wrong, that you're falling apart. Go and take the fight to Celtic and make one change. I think it was Sima for right, which was absolutely the right change. But yeah, interesting that he stuck with them as a group.
Yeah, and I was surprised by that. I thought there would be at least 2 or 3 changes. But I think Sima did make a difference because it gave Celtic a wee bit more to think about on that right-hand side. And also, Sima's very direct.
Yeah.
So when he is playing that right-hand side, he's not really someone that's going to cut inside and play a lot of kind of combinations that Clement would talk about. He's someone that will get the ball and he'll drive.
Yeah.
And he did get to the byline quite a few times. He maybe didn't have the final ball that we were looking for. But yeah, I just thought Rangers started to build their way back into the game. And yeah, this was a real show of their mentality. I think at half-time, a lot of the fans would have said, this team have not delivered again. A game where you've got to show up. This is a title-defining match. It's not a title-deciding, right? But it can play where the title's going to go at the end of the season. And I think a lot of fans at half-time would have been right to say that this team have not shown up. But actually, that second-half performance, they didn't play well today. We can maybe argue against it, maybe after this podcast. We won't bore people, right? But I don't think they played particularly well today, but they built themselves back into the game, like I said, and they showed the mentality that even when you're not playing well, you can get a result.
Yeah.
That's how you win trophies.
Yeah,
no, you can't play well every single week. But Rangers have shown today that they've got the mentality to go the distance in this title race. And I thought the latter subs, in terms of Cantwell and Matondo, they made a difference. And that's exactly what you're looking for in these games as well. So, all round, I've convinced myself when the game initially finished, I maybe wasn't feeling. I was just a bit deflated.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have to phone Samaritans, man.
I won't go back to that. I won't bore the listeners, but I think it's ended up being a really good point for Rangers today. And I think overall, and the way the game went and the ebbed and flowed, they probably did deserve to get something out of it in the end.
Yeah, look, it'd be remiss of me without mentioning this guy before finishing the podcast and before asking the sort of final question, but I agree with you. I don't think there was any standout performance today, bar one, and that is Dujon Sterling. Tommy, that isn't his natural position on the left back, but I thought he had a really, really good game today. You might disagree with me.
I thought he was okay.
No?
I don't naturally think he was the standout. Actually, if I was going, I'm gathering my thoughts there. Ross is absolutely right. Nobody's saying that Rangers were great in the second half. I'm not saying that either. But you're right. Getting the bricks down and building your way slowly back into something and taking chances, which again, Philippe Clement had referenced before the game. The problem that Rangers have had is with these games, big players not taking their big moments, where Celtic had big players who took big moments. You know, shouldn't miss out the fact, like we did actually keep guys like Kyogo and all that quiet and all that during the game as well. Which brings me nicely into John Souttar, who I thought was really, really good, and he actually won a lot of kind of battles. Excuse me, a lot of battles with Adam Ida as well, who's a big physical presence. I know Ida scores, right? We know the problems with that goal, but I look at that. I look at people coming off the bench, but for the starters, you know, Butland with his 2 big saves as well. But I'm looking at John Souttar and I'm thinking that was a pretty good performance under difficult circumstances.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's any player that gets the Dado Purcell headband on during an Old Firm.
Big fan of that. I'm a big fan of that. Yeah. It's up there with the Lorenzo Amoruso just staple my thigh moment as well. That's what that is.
Yeah, and look, just the final question to ask you both. I'll stick with you here, Tommy. How are you feeling going into the next 6 games, if including this Dundee game if it's on Wednesday?
Yeah, well, pitch to be laid, so to speak. Well, and as Philip Clement said in the press conference again, that he's not looking at that, and he's not looking at the weather on Dundee because he's not a weatherman, he's not a groundsman, right? That's Dundee and the league's job to do something about that because it's shambolic, right? It's absolutely shambolic. We're a bit of a mockery of a league for that, but yeah, you have to divorce that question, I suppose, into 2 parts, which is today deflating from the outside, maybe because we thought we could get the win, right? But actually, the way the game played out, I think Rangers, as a team and a mentality basis, take more from it because we clawed ourselves back in it, showed a bit of quality. Yep. Now it's all about just winning our games, building towards that Parkhead moment as well, and going toe to toe with our rivals for the title. Again, we shouldn't look back, right? Because it's all about winning games and looking forward. But this is what we all wanted. We wanted to be in the title race. We've already got a trophy. We're looking for the other 2. We're in the hunt. We can do this. It's now up to the players and the management to find ways to beat the rivals in front of us. Yeah,
I totally agree with you there. Ross, thinking about it, I mean, we heard it in the press conference here. That is, their captain's coming out and saying that's the best 45 minutes of football they've seen, Celtic play at Ibrox. But they never got anything for it, so it doesn't really count for anything. Do you think that's a big...
I take that one. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, that's it. Staying in. So there you go. How are you feeling going into the next few games, and do you think that this result will have a big psychological impact in the title race?
Oh, good question. I agree with Tommy there. I think when it comes to the end of the game, I do think Celtic's dressing room will be slightly deflated, not coming away with a result today. I think actually Cal McGregor maybe mentioned that in his press conference as well, saying they were a bit disappointed.
I tuned out at that point.
Yeah, don't blame me. So, look, I think, psychologically, I think Rangers will get a small boost today. I don't see, because it is a draw, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference on this title race now. It is simply 6 games to go.
Yeah.
That's it. So, look, it is in our hands. Celtic would argue it's in their hands as well. That's the way it goes. It's a title race out. So that game at Parkhead and the split is going to be really, really important. But this game against Dundee on Wednesday is really significant, I think, for us psychologically, because if you can go there, stretch the gap again and back to the 2 points that and the game in hand is done, then go to, I believe it's Ross County after that, the weekend. So these are really important games for us to get to the split. Just get us there, and then it's all to play for.
Yep. That's it.
And I think Rangers have shown. let's not look at the first half performance as a barometer, but the second half performance. Look, we have seen better Celtic teams in this, right? The Rangers can compete with a Celtic team. This narrative that Celtic have got the better players and the better squad, I just don't see it.
No,
the first half
agreed.
they were better and they deserve the credit for that. But I just think Rangers have enough in them to take this to the final 1 or 2 games of the season, and I think they have enough in there to go to Parkhead and get a result. And that's really the way you're looking at this point. Maybe that is a bit of a disservice to the other teams in the split. They're going to have some things to play for, I'm sure. But look, that's the way it works in Glasgow, isn't it? The two look at each other. But I think Rangers have shown enough throughout this season, especially under Philippe Clement since he came in, that they have the capability to go and compete for this title, and I certainly think they'll do it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that, so long may it continue. So listen, we'll be back on Wednesday, post-match reaction from the Dundee game, hopefully where Rangers go top of the league. Take care everybody, and we'll see you all again soon.